The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Remember this, when you're the greatest fighter in the world today, they got a name for you. They don't call you a great fighter, they call you Chael Sonnen and beat me, if you can.
And after tonight, none of you in this ring will ever again!
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down. Woo!
I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
And I have in my cold beer. You have your cold beer? If not, you are fucking jabroni.
Wash it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
I am Riley Martin, a phenomena that has never transpired before, will rally again. This is your last goddamn chance to do something for humanity.
All right, welcome to the Filthy FRB Show. We're joined by a WWE Hall of Famer, former junior heavyweight champion of the world, NWA. You might know him in the late 90s on Monday Night Raw with Pat Patterson. His name is Jerry Brisco. What's going on, Jerry?
Well, I just returned back from Orlando over the NXT Performance Center where we had a great tryout this weekend with about a dozen Brazilians and Australians. It's very interesting. Great athletes.
Yeah, and Jerry, I'm also joined by Filthy Tom Lawlor, who's is currently signed with the UFC and has some experience as a professional wrestler too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tom's. He don't know that, but I've been a fan of his for a while. So I'm honored to be on both you guys' show. Of course, I follow you on Twitter, Brian, and I always enjoy the controversy. As the business I'm in, we're always in some type of controversy. So it's good to have a fellow guy that can relate to what people do talk to.
Yeah, and I often wonder, like, it rubs people the wrong way. I guess because I'm always looking for an angle.
Honesty, Brian, will rub people the wrong
way. What do you think, Tom? You think that'll?
I think you're doing the right thing. I think both you guys are doing the right thing, especially if you're looking for controversy. Because hey, Brian, it's only going to put more dollars in your pocket. So.
Exactly, Tom.
Well, that was a book, right? Controversy Creates Cash by Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you ever read it, but I did. Eric gave me a copy of it, and I really enjoyed it. Eric is a brilliant man. He really is. He's misunderstood in a lot of ways, rightfully so, but he definitely knew how to create some controversy, and he did it. And they definitely made a lot of cash for not only himself, but for a lot of talent. That was a great era for talent because there was competition, and so when there's competition, talent is the winner on it. Talent and the fans are the winner.
Yeah, I mean, especially during that, the mid to late 90s. I mean, there were so many guys in the business making just incredible amounts of money. And you've forgotten more about the business than I have. But, I mean, was that the first time when guaranteed contracts? Wait a minute,
you're saying I've forgotten more about the business than you have forgotten about? So that's saying I must not know very much to begin with.
Did I messed up that. I've already started drinking Coors Light, Jerry. I messed up.
Oh, right. I wish I could join you. And by the way, you do want me a beer. Tom, is he like that? Promise you a beer? Like I was out to Vegas for the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Open. He said, I'll meet up with you and have a beer. And he conveniently waits until it's way too late or the tournament's going on. By the way, I'm at the bar if you want your beer. Is he like that, Tom?
Yeah.
He got deep pockets and short arms.
We had a good night that night, Jerry. You were too busy hanging out with the Godfather, Papa Shango.
Yeah, exactly. And, no offense, but I'd rather be over there with a whole train going on. And
Now, Tom, have you ever ran into the Godfather in Vegas? Because I know you're out there right now.
No, but I would stay far, far away from him. Just based on his days as the Supreme Fighting Machine. I wouldn't want to go anywhere near him unless he's dressed up and he, dressed up like the Godfather. He's got a bunch of women there. But when I see a big scary guy with tattoos, I normally stay away.
I tell you what, Tom, I had a conversation with Charles one time. Everybody knows Charles White, right, is his name, and he asked, everybody's afraid of him because he's so big, had all the ink all over him, and he said, why aren't you getting over the heel? And I said, Charles, you're a good-looking guy. I mean, he really is. You look in his eyes, he got those real kind eyes. It's just the way he is. He's really a good person. Nothing like the characters of Papa Shango's, the badasses, and the roles that he played. He's a real good, down-to-earth guy. One of my favorite all-time people in the business. One of my friends.
So, Jerry, I mean, for some of the people that might not know about WWE, some of the MMA fans, what is your official position with WWE at this point?
Basically, Brian, I'm a collegiate talent scout, and I cover wrestling as my primary. Of course, I'm an Oklahoma State proud Oklahoma State Cowboy. A little disappointed the way Iowa kicked their butts at home last week, and expressed it. But most of our good wrestlers, best wrestlers, are sitting in a locker room with a red shirt on them. So look, Cowboys will return. We won 34 national championships, more than Iowa and Iowa State combined. So we feel like we're ahead of the curve. Of course, Coach John Smith, the greatest all-time decorated American wrestler, both collegiately and internationally, does a great job recruiting nationwide for outstanding wrestlers.
Sure. Now, Oklahoma State, they signed the top high school wrestler in the country last year, Chance Marsteller, and I haven't really gotten a chance to watch too much this year. Do they still have the red shirt on him, or is?
That's what I mean. Most of the best wrestlers are sitting in the dressing room with the red shirt on them. So, just waiting their time. And they got some good, big boys too. I have a guy from my hometown from Blackwell, Oklahoma, that should develop. They're waiting for Marston to get out, which I think Marston was beat by Telford this week, and Marston's ranked number 4 or 5. But I think by the time the Nationals roll around in St. Louis, that he'll be seated up in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I just wanted about Oklahoma State. I know 1964, your brother Jack came in second in the Nationals, and then 1965, he won the national championship, and I don't think he was taken down one time the entire season. And he was a junior in 65. Did he come back to school in 66, or did he go pro?
He went pro. He was one of the first guys to start that trend. He had gotten married in college, married his high school sweetheart, and they'd had a couple of kids. And my mom, God bless her soul, she had 6 kids, and father deserted us. Typical story when we were young, and so she worked. But Jack and I had scholarship, and I had an older brother who was a basketball player that was All-American at Murray State back in the 50s, and put us all through college, and And so, but yeah, he left, turned pro, Leroy McGurk. And let me tell you, we got time to tell the story here. And Jack could actually tell the story about how he ended up at Oklahoma State, because he had signed a letter of intent with the great Bud Wilkinson, the football coach, a living legend at University of Oklahoma, to be a Sooner. But and then let me tell you a story. Football season, of course, runs over into wrestling season. So Jack's senior year, they went to the state finals. Blackwell did, and lost in the state finals. And so I was wrestling middle school at the time, and we'd gone over to a little town outside of Ponca City, and I won the tournament over there. And I was real proud of myself. First really major tournament I'd won, and I think I was in 7th grade. And so I come down our street, and like I said, we didn't have a fancy neighborhood, but there's a big red Cadillac parked outside on the street in front of our house. And going, who the hell's Cadillac? So I was excited. The coach let me out of the car, and I went running in. All of a sudden, as I went running in the door, I opened the door. There stood Eddie Crowder, the offensive coordinator for Bud Wilkinson, and Bud Wilkinson, the legend himself, right there. And I dropped my trophy. Bud reached down, picked it up. Hey, son, what you got here? Congratulations. I told him I won the trophy, batted me on the head. I went on about my business, but he congratulated. But Jack was such a good football player that Eddie Crowder couldn't close the deal, so he had to bring the head guy in, Bud Wilkinson in. So Bud made a house call to my brother. That's when Jack went ahead, who's going to turn down Bud when he's in your house, especially my mom. My mom was in love with the guy, so Jack signed a letter of intent. Myron Roderick, our wrestling coach at Oklahoma State, was such a smart guy. He'd gotten to know Jack and the family, and knew that Jack was a huge professional wrestling fan. Danny Hodge, was the local legend there. Danny grew up about 15 miles from where I lived. So the promoter in Oklahoma, Leroy McGurk, was an old cowboy, two-time national champion at Oklahoma A&M at the time. So he called Leroy McGurk and asked Leroy if he would give Jack a call and tell Jack that when he got out of college there would be a spot with forgot. I guess it was Oklahoma Championship Wrestling. So Leroy made the call over to Jack. Actually sent Haystack Calhoun and another guy over to tell Jack, hey Jack, you go to Oklahoma State and there's a good job waiting for you when you get out of school. So Jack dropped the letter of intent for football and went ahead and signed for Oklahoma State. So that's how Jack and basically myself both ended up at Oklahoma State University. Was through Roderick's homework doing it that he knew that Jack liked wrestling, and the key to it was getting Jack a job afterward. But then he was upset with Leroy because after Jack's junior year, he won the national championship. Jack decided it was time to move on and move pro and start making a living for his family. So that's what happened there.
Hey, Tom, you were going to hop in there?
No, but I could. I mean,
yeah. Well, I was just
there's about a million things that
Haystacks Calhoun. Amazing.
Happened there. Yeah.
Haystacks was a remarkable person. I got to know him very well, and when Haystacks was one of those characters that didn't go into, we call them territories, didn't go into a territory and stay. He was like Andre the Giant was during his day. He'd go in, for like 10 days and get back in his car and travel around and go to another territory for 10 days. But Haystack always drove those big internationals. You know how big those vehicles were? They were the SUVs, back in the 50s and 60s that everybody wanted. So, but Haystacks was so big, seat and everything. So we had Brisco Brothers Body Shop, and they'd bought a new one. They brought it over to the body shop. We had one of our body men. We had to rebolt the seats. We undid them and drilled new holes and refitted the seats so they were custom fit for haystack so he could, get that big girth of his in the car and drive comfortably. So he was quite a character.
And for the people that don't know, I don't know that much about Haystacks Calhoun, but I've seen some pictures. He had to have been about 600 pounds. I mean,
they were advertised around 650, and he was every bit of it.
Now, Jerry,
he could move like a cat. Yes, sir, Tom.
I'm a big fan. While we're on the topic of some of the old school wrestlers, I'm a big fan myself of late 70s and 1980s Japanese wrestling, and I've come across a lot of your matches from All Japan against not only Japanese stars there, but the Funks and some of the other teams that were there. Can you talk a little bit about your experience over there in All Japan? Because we kind of see right now there's a little bit of a resurgence in the Japanese scene as far as interest, especially here on American soil. And I was just wondering if we get a viewpoint from back in the 1970s when things were really going strong.
Well, it was quite an experience for me, and Japan was a place that I dreamed of going. Of course, a couple of my teammates, Yojo Yutaki, who was a two-time Olympic champion and three-time NCAA champion, twice outstanding wrestler. Back in our days, you could only wrestle for 3 years. You weren't eligible as a freshman. And Tadaki Hada, another one of my great friends, and so I learned a little bit about their culture from them. So I had the opportunity to go over, so I went over, and the first tour, I just posted a picture on Twitter of an old poster. I happened to be going through some stuff for starting to get my tax in order to take to my CPA, and I was digging through some files. I found this poster. I think it was from 1969. It was me, Funk, and the Destroyer, and had Tenru and Baba pictures on there also representing the Japanese. So I just happened to take a picture of them posted on Twitter just last week, I believe it was. But and those Japanese, if they heard that you could go a little bit, and Tom, you know what I mean by that, they would challenge you. And I was fresh out of school, 1968, so I was fresh out of Oklahoma State, so I was ready to challenge. They wanted to throw me, so they had some guys. They tested pretty good over there in the beginning. I don't know if they still do that now, but back in those days, they tested. They wanted to see what you were carrying, so they found out. And I wasn't tested for too many nights, after like first couple nights. I passed my test, I guess, to say. But it was an experience. And then I mentioned the Funk brothers. A lot of people know that Funk Brisco rivalry was one of the most fierce, well-known rivalries of that era. And we wrestled a bunch all over the world, Australia, Japan, Puerto Rico, all up and down the Caribbean, all over the United States and Canada. And it was quite a contest. It was unique because the Briscoes were, true brothers, and the Funks were true brothers. So it was and it was that Oklahoma-Texas deal, too, where, Okie can beat a Texan any day of the week. They said Texan can beat Okie any day of the week. So it was quite a contest, and we were allowed the time to go out and tell our story and show our skills, and I think that's what really helped that along, because they didn't limit it by time. We go out and we go 45 minutes to an hour every night, both individually as a tag team. So, and it developed over the years, and it stayed hot for years and years and years. So I'm really proud of that. That's one of the biggest rivals, of course, then pass it along to, as we move along, to Steamboat and Youngblood when we captured the World Tag Team titles in North Carolina.
Jerry, that brings up, reminds me about the Funk brothers. Now, from what I've read or what I heard, Dory Funk Sr. did some backroom politicking amongst all of the territories in the NWA that postponed Jack's first reign as NWA World Champion, that Dory Sr. maneuvered for him to drop the belt to Harley Race in Kansas City instead of to Jack in Houston, and he used some ridiculous story about like he got in a car accident or something. Is that
Well, you're going to have to, if that's true, and I don't know if the accident was true. It's a conspiracy theory. They always talk about the Montreal screw job and all that, but this was a conspiracy long before that, and it's never been proven one way or another. Regardless of the fact, it all worked out. And Dory Funk Sr. was a very powerful man in the NWA. He had some real close allies with Bob Geigel and that Kansas City group. So I wouldn't put anything past Dory Funk Sr. and all I'm saying if it's true or not, and I'm not going to say, anything, but I just know it all worked out, and, Jack ended up getting the title from Harley Race, and Jack, like a true champion, when it came time, he was glad to pass the torch over to Terry, so it all worked out, and, there's no problems, and we both highly respect for both Terry and Dory Jr. and I'm still very close friends. I'm a very close friend with both of them today, and I'm proud to say that.
Sure. Now, I heard that some people thought that, Dory Sr. thought his son maybe losing to a legit badass like your brother Jack would make him look bad. And, Jack had been going around to all the territories and he had been doing all the jobs. So basically he could set up so when he returned to that territory as world champion, the local promoter could say, okay, well, our local guy beat him the last time. Now come out and spend your money to see our local guy win the world championship. That's one thing.
I'm very impressed with your research, and you're right on the money for that. And that was a traditional way when you're getting a guy ready to win a title. You send him around to all the local territories, and you do the favor to build up the guy. That way, when you get the title, they have it on film where this guy beat you. But Jack's title run was delayed by almost a year, so it kind of hurt Jack in the short run because he'd been beat by all these guys, but it all worked out, and but that was the way the system worked, and in those days, and it was a very good system. And Dory and Terry and Harley all did the same thing. So they'd go around and put the top guy in the territory over and, build him for the title match. As soon as you got the title, you go in and you had a ready-made feud. And it was good business. And the old school was not a bad school. Sometimes you look back at old school and say, that was terrible theory and terrible philosophy. But this wasn't. This is how you when he brought a champion, it was ready-made, and now you already had a ready-made opponent. You didn't have to go in and spend a couple of weeks in there trying to make an opponent. You already had your opponent made.
Sure.
Yeah. Jerry, I think that's one of the reasons I know myself as a fellow wrestling fan and a lot of the fans that are out there today are really, really impressed with the way that NXT is run and the way that the development center is preparing – the performance center, is preparing some of the athletes. And obviously that's a system that you know a lot about, not only, through your own experience, but also your family's experience. And your son was there and went through the rigors of the training system, and then was also seen in TNA for a long time. Do you have an update on what your son Wes is up to? Is he still involved in the business? And how's that going for him?
Yes, I do, but let's just jump to the NXT. We have a concentrated effort now to start recruiting world-class athletes. William Regal is assigned to the international recruiting, and he just we had a crew in this weekend when I just returned home myself from over at NXT, and it's a great facility. It's a huge facility. It has 7 rings in it. It has has a gym about the size of a I won't be a name dropper, but any of the big national known chain gyms in it. We have a medical staff in there, a full-time trainer, a doctor. We have, of course, all the editing rooms, film rooms where you can go and study, promo rooms where the great American Dream Dusty Rhodes teaches these guys how to cut promos and how to tailor themselves. So we have a really concentrated effort of these Brazilians. There was a couple of Olympic kids we had there, and a couple of Tom and Newfield now, a couple of MMA guys come up that is looking to make the jump, and so and we had some Australian kids come up. So Riga went this summer. He went to Australia, he went to Brazil, and he went to India in search of talent, athletic talent, not just talent, not just, pro wrestling, entertaining talent that are world-class athletes. So I'm really proud of that fact that's been our goal here recently, the last year or so, is to, that's the reason I'm on the road all the time looking for these collegiate stars, is to get better athletes in there. So in the future, you'll see not saying that these guys now are great athletes, because I overall, from top to bottom, I think they're a better group of athletes than I've ever seen in the business anywhere today, as they have been at any time in my 50-some years of being in the business. But my son Wes, he was tag team champion with Xavier Woods when he was over there, and he's not the size of a lot of these guys, so he had an injury problem, and he tore 2 ACLs and a shoulder, and he was out for quite a while. And it's a pro business. If you're not bringing income in, you're sitting on the shelf. You're not contributing. And like any organization, I don't care if football, basketball, hockey, or MMA, if you're sitting on the shelf for a couple of years, pretty soon, and you're still receiving your check, pretty soon the guy writing those checks says, hey, I'm not getting my return out of this guy. So it didn't work out for him there at that time. Doors still open for him, but he wanted to explore, so he went over to TNA, and we all know during his time he got over really big as a part of that Aces and Eights group, and was really the guy who stood out the most in that group, besides Bubba Dudley, who had like 20 more years experience in, but Wes was really the vocal point. He's a good-looking kid, so camera liked him, so camera was on him a lot. But he's an extremely good talent. He's working independence. I went out to dinner last night with him in Orlando. It was always good to see him. But he's still pursuing his career, and he'll get a break, and when he does, he'll shine. So he's a Brisco, so he'll shine. So I got a lot of confidence in him.
Sure, yeah, he's still a young guy too. So he is, he's got his time to make a mark. But I got to think, as recruiting collegiate wrestlers, the Performance Center has got to be an incredible recruiting tool, because now you can say, hey, you can go to this world-class facility down in Orlando, and it's not, hey, we're shipping you, like Kurt Angle, I think, went to Memphis.
Ohio.
Okay, Ohio.
Oh, he went to Memphis first, then he went to Ohio.
Okay. So I would think, when you're recruiting as a selling point, it's a lot easier to say to these blue chip athletes that you're talking to, hey, you're going to go to this facility that's on a par with the same facilities you were working out at Oklahoma State or the University of Minnesota or Penn State or something like that.
You're exactly right, and I do use it. I use that as a selling point, and I carry a little. There's when we opened it up, we of course had the governor and senators and all that. There a bunch of executives, and there's a video that shows the Performance Center. So I have that downloaded on my phone. So I said, this is just where you'll be. Plus, you'll be in Orlando. So when I'm selling these recruits, you're not going to an army or an old warehouse to train in. It's a state-of-the-art facility with all the amenities that I mentioned earlier about the training, the gymnasium. We have a physical trainer there that shows them how to work out and shows them how to gain weight. And we have a nutritionist there that teaches them how to eat so we can control the style of the body. And we do wellness tests there just like we do with our athletes on the road. So, and more so with these young guys because we don't want them at a younger age developing bad habits. So it's a great selling tool, and I'm very proud of it, and the company's very proud of it, which they should. They got a lot of money invested in it, and that's a state-of-the-art facility, and anybody that sees it, wow, you know, what this business has come a long way, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Jerry, is there any tool that you use personally to keep the wrestlers away from the public subs? Because whenever I'm in Florida, I have a really hard time staying away from that substation at the public supermarket. And I can only see how that would be a deterrent to getting in shape.
Well, we work these guys so hard, Brian. I mean, and Tom, these guys, it's a 6-7 day a week job, and we want them to relax and have fun too. But we want them to act mature and be mature. If we hear any inappropriate behavior at all from any of them, they get build them on, as everybody knows, from Tough Enough. They get a stern set down from Bill, and if it's any of my guys, all he's got to do is say, "Hey, you want me to call Mr. Brisco?" And of course, I put the fear of God in them, and they all the coaches tell me, "You're great help." He said, "Whether you know it or not, all we got to do is say, hey, we're going to call Mr. Brisco. If you don't step it up," and none of them want to get a call from me, believe me.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's because, you know, you showed a lot of faith in them to bring them into the fold, and maybe they look at you as almost like a father figure that they just don't want to disappoint you.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's what I'm told, and I'm glad I've earned their respect. You know, I've given them an opportunity to be a mega worldwide global superstar, and given them the opportunity to make one heck of a living, you know, for quite a while. So they don't want to disappoint me, but I really go out and I do a lot of research when I recruit these guys. You know, I got great relationships with most of the coaches, and they trust me. Now, when I go to one of these events, I always ask the coach, when is the proper time to talk to? When do you want me to talk to you guys? You know now, you want me to wait till the end of the season? If you want me to wait till the end of the season, would you at least tell them that there's some interest in them? And I get great cooperation from the coaches because I respect what their wishes are, and I don't try to break an athlete's focus when I go into a facility to try to recruit them. And most of them remember the name Brisco here from there, my brother, or from one of the coaches, and my friends Bobby Douglas and Tadaki Hada and Leroy Smith from the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. And I've become very good friends with Kerry McCoy at the University of Maryland, who's a highly respected coach, and he's recommended a few guys to me. And so I think I've built a strong reputation, so I'm kind of very careful when I approach these guys and how I approach them. And I feel bad, you know. I was out in Vegas and I saw this one kid and I just had to talk to him because he's such a big facility and so many teams out there. I was afraid I'd lose contact with him, so I went up to him. He was getting ready. He said, "You don't mind to retire?" I said, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." I felt bad for like an hour, you know. And he went out, but he won his match, you know. So, but I was told even Jay Robinson, Jay and I were. Jay's a coach at University of Minnesota. He and I were in the same recruiting class at Oklahoma State together. So he was Brock Lesnar's coach. So I spotted Brock as a junior in college, and Jay said, "Please don't say a word to him because Brock's one of these guys that's got to have 100% focus." And as we see how many jumps that Brock's made back and forth from UFC to WWE and tried football and everything that Jay told me about him was true. So I waited, and then Jay said, "I'll give you my word. If you don't say anything to him, as soon as he wins the national championship, and he will win a national championship next year," he said, "I'll have him in my office the following week. I'll give you a call, and you guys can talk, and you tell him whatever you want to tell him, and talk him into doing whatever you want to do." So I waited, and Jay kept his word. The very next week, I got a phone call from Jay. He said, "I got Brock here in my office." I said, "I also have Sheldon Benjamin sitting here with him." He said, I want you to take them as a package deal." So we just happened to have a pay-per-view coming up in Minneapolis a couple of weeks after that phone call. So I set up a meeting. And
was that when Jesse Ventura was the referee?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so, I'll tell you a story later. But anyway, Brock Lesnar brought Brock and Sheldon in, and Vince McMahon saw Brock standing over in the corner talking with me. The first time I've ever seen this happen with 30 years with Vince. Vince saw the guy and detoured where he was going, and actually came over and entertained and walked up to Brock, introduced himself, which he doesn't usually do. Looked at Brock, and he said, "Hey, you ready to be an entertainer?" And Brock looked him square in the eyes. He said, "That's what I've always wanted to be." I said, Vince walked around, Brock, that was the perfect answer. You couldn't give me better of an answer, you know. And so I was told, whatever it takes, let's get this guy in our camps and get him going. And we did.
I mean, I've never spoken to Brock. I know some people that do know him, and he just gives off this vibe. It's just like a very, scary person. Like even in like a shoot, like he's just very intimidating. Is there like a nice side of Brock Lesnar if you get to know him, or is he always just kind of like what we think he is?
If Brock Lesnar in public is the most intimidating person I have ever met in my life, and I've been in this business since 1968. So, and I have friends that are pro football players and been around pro football teams and things like that. And I have never in my entire life met a more intimidating looking person in public. But you get Brock in his element. You get Brock away from the spotlights, away from the public. Brock is one of the nicest, he'll probably kill me for saying that, but he's one of the nicest guys there is. And there's one lady that can, with her thumb, can get Brock settled down in a flash, A common story, when Brock was ready to leave in the beginning, she was the one that came to me and said, you need to talk to Brock. He's ready to walk now. So Brock and I went up to the top of the Coliseum in Georgia and sat there. Talked for about an hour and a half, and I talked him into going into talking with to have a conversation with Vince, and then Vince and I had a conversation, and we worked it out where Brock could stay and finish his contract, his run there. And but yeah, Brock, when you get him in his element, and all Brock really wants to do is be out in the country and hunt and fish and be on his farm. That's all he wants to do. He don't care about spotlights. He don't care about anything else. If Brock had $1 in his pocket and had a truckload of ammunition and his rifles where he could get a truck where he could go hunting every day, he'd be the happiest man in the world with that buck in his pocket.
Yeah, I remember, Jerry, that Brock, even young in his career, had a ton of hype around him, based just on his look and his ability in the ring, obviously. With this new class of people that NXT has, I was wondering how much of a role you played in getting Sonny Dinsa to join the WWE, because he was looked at as a real Olympic hopeful for Canada, and he's done great things on the mat. And I was wondering if you see any parallels between the two of those gentlemen, perhaps.
Well, I'll tell you, who turned me on to Sonny Denzel was my good friend Kevin Roberts assistant coach at Oregon State University. Sonny was at Simon Fraser University up in Vancouver, and I'd gone out to recruit Clayton Jack. Actually, Chad Hankey was who I was after at the time, and but Chad was a junior, and Clayton was out there, and Clayton, people don't know Clayton, Clay Jack, he's 6'7", 6'8", 275, 85 pounds, and one of these monster mountain man. That's an intimidating looking guy too. And so Kevin and I was talking, he said, hey, there's this kid up at Simon Fraser University you should take a look at. And so he told me his name. He said that at the time, Sonny was only 18 years old. So I went up and talked to Sonny, and Sonny, like I said, was 18. We want our guys to finish their education, whatever level it is, whatever they start, we want them to finish. So I told Sonny, go ahead and finish get your associate's degree, and we'll talk, And so he did, and so. He came. I brought him down to camp at 19, but Sonny was on the junior world team at the time. And you're right; he was considered. He probably could make the Canadian Olympic team, but he was on the junior world team, and so he came down to camp, and of course, blew everybody's mind, and we're looking for that type of character. And I did some research. He comes from a very fine family, and so Sonny said, "Hey, I really love the WWE. My heart's there, but I'd really like to, finish it. Well, you made a team, so go ahead." I think he went over and won the silver medal, and then after he won the silver medal, we sent him to India, and he was accepted away like a hero, and he just reported to us right at the end of 2014, and I was over there. Of course, I got asked to coach all my guys, and every time I go over there, and they said that Sonny's going to be great. Sonny's going to be really good. So he's a very intelligent young man, but we told him, that he'd come to us at that because he's so young. At any time, if he wanted to wait, he said, my heart's here. He said, this is what I want to do. So we went ahead and signed him. So I'm very happy with Sonny, and the coaches seem to be very happy with him. And I think we'll have an international star, in the next few years in Sonny. And there's a few more up in Vancouver area that I'm looking at, thanks to Kevin Roberts at Oregon State University. I get a lot of cooperation. It's great, now when I go around, I know so many of these coaches. Troy Nickerson, that just got the head coaching job at Northern Colorado, that was an assistant coach under KJ, Kevin Jackson at Iowa State, out in Las Vegas, said, Brisco, you're really going to love my recruiting class I'm getting. He said, I got some really big boys for you. I love it when coaches come up, tell me that they're recruiting guys that they know I'll like, so. But what started that, the coaches, when Brock was breaking in, good old JR was doing the commentary. Of course, every time Brock was on TV, he's a product, University of Minnesota, under a great coach, Jay Robinson. So, we give the programs a lot of exposure by signing these guys also, which helps them in further recruiting.
Yeah, you mentioned Kevin Roberts, and I don't know him, but I know he's been a longtime friend of Chael Sonnen, who's a friend of mine. So he's always talking about Kevin, and a huge wrestling fan. I think he went to WrestleMania last year.
Yeah, I invited him down last year in New Orleans to WrestleMania, and he had the time of his life. And I mean, everybody I meet is Brisco. Well, you know, our boy Kevin Roberts, man. But he grew up in outside of Spokane, Washington, and he was always, at that Northwest Wrestling promotion, Don Owens, ran a promotion a lot like Eddie Graham down here in Florida, where he had athletes there and had athletes that could wrestle. So Kevin, being a wrestler himself, latched onto that, and then at an early age became a pro wrestling fan. And so So I was at a Pac-12 tournament, and Kevin's not the biggest guy, but he came up to me and he said, and he introduced himself, and I started talking to him, and he's now become one of my best friends and a reliable source of talent. There was a young man that got injured that I was looking with Mike McClure out of Michigan State, which we're hoping to sign. He was injured, so we weren't able to sign him yet, but and he's coming back down in June, and I expect him to be signed right away. But they were in Reno at the Reno Open, and he's wrestling Chad Hankey, who at the time was the number one rated heavavyweight in the country. Chad had a high single. Tom, you know what I'm talking on Mike, and this is on Flow Wrestling right now. The video of it, and Mike posted his hand on Chad's chest and did a one-legged. Now you're in a single leg, and you know you're hopping around trying to keep your balance. Posted his hand on Chad's chest, did a standing one-legged backflip, and had the state of mind after he completed the backflip to turn right into to Chad and double-legged him for a 2-point takedown. That's what the standing single backflip didn't impress me as much as the keeping your train of thought when you land to turn and shoot for a double leg and score the 2 points. And then he beat Hanky on that move. I had 3 coaches coming that day tell me about Brisco. You got to see this guy. The next one's guys on the airplane to East Lansing, Michigan to check McClure out. And McClure, it was right before the Big Ten tournament. McClure said, I can do a standing back, but you want to see it? And I said, Mike, if you do one and you happen to hurt yourself a week before the Big Ten, I'll be run out of this gym and never invited back. So, no, I know you can do it, so save it for me.
Yeah.
So I rely on these coaches. Like I said earlier, when I have these coaches come up to me, hey, you'll really like the recruiting class. I got some guys you'll really like. That makes me feel good. It makes me think I'm doing my job and forming these relationships and trust with these coaches. And I really enjoy the young coaches because they grew up. Some of them try to hide the fact that they were what we call closet wrestling fans, but sooner or later it comes out, hey, it was Hogan. What was Hogan really like? So you did watch after all, But it's a great resource, to have these coaches on your side. And I try to attend as many events during the off season where they have a little bit more time, like Beat the Streets out in New York, and my good friend Noel Thompson up in New York that helps organize that great event that's done Beat the Streets New York, and that organization has expanded all over the United States to help these kids get off the inner city streets and onto a mat and show them that they can do something with their lives. So I try to form those relationships the best I can.
Yeah. So Noel, I think his day job, he works for Goldman Sachs or something.
He's got his own hedge fund company now.
Oh, okay. And
he's a very bright young man. He's ambassador to Jamaica. I mean, the guy's multi-talented. He's great guy. Always, if you ever meet Noel and watch him, the guy, I don't know what it is. I wish I had that attitude that he's always got a great smile on his face and just one of the nicer guys. And he came to ODW, one of our original training camps, Fort Camp, when he got out of college, and it just didn't work out for him. But life has worked out well for him because of the position he's in now.
Hofstra, I think it might have been around the same time.
Yeah, he was just inducted into the Hofstra Hall of Fame. You're right.
It might have been. I don't know if Weidman was there around the same time. Chris Weidman, the UFC middleweight champion, because I think they're around the same age.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I know they are.
But it's funny. You mentioned Mike McClure from Michigan State. I was talking. I talked quite a bit with John Reeder, the former champion from Iowa State.
I love John. What a great guy.
Yeah, and I really admire John. He's so intense. He's just, I'm just like, oh, geez, I wish I could, channel some of the intensity that this guy has.
You're right.
To attack each day. But, Yeah, he was saying, he was like, McClure, he's tailor made to be WWE superstar.
Yeah, and I think John would be too. I love John to death. I think he's what a gentleman he is, and he was recruited by my friend Bobby Douglas, and he's quality young man. So I wish him the best of luck in his pursuit of the Olympic dream, and hope he makes it, as I do, a lot of those guys. Another guy I really like and I think would be such a great superstar, but he got other aspirations, but I'm going to go ahead and mention his name, is Jake Hubert. What an athlete he is, and what a personality he is, and what creativity the guy has. I think he'd be such an asset to us and such a big star to us. But like I said, he got other aspirations. I respect that. Guys that are honest with it, like Zach Ray out of Kent State. Or Lehigh, I'm sorry. I was really after him, and he said, "Mr. Brisco, I just don't think that's the right sport for me. I want to, pursue other opportunities." And I don't harass them. I don't bother them. Not after that. They're honest with me, honest enough to tell me what they want to do, and I respect that. One guy I haven't given up on yet is Tony Nelson, and I'm persistent, and I think Tony's finding that out. And he told me out in Vegas, I said, "Got your card right here in my pocket." And he said, "I just, at this time, I want to look at other places." He's looking at the freestyle team also. So I'm an Olympic supporter. I'm a big supporter of international wrestling. So I'm just hoping that he does make it, and then when he does make it, he keeps us in mind. But there's a lot of them out there, and they're all polite. I have run into a couple of a-holes. I'm not going to mention any names, but hey, well, do I have to take steroids? And I tell them, not unless you're going to play baseball. You don't take them with us, with the drug testing.
Right.
I probably have all the baseball players at them now, so that's all right. I can run faster than they can.
We've done a lot of toeing the line back and forth between, mixed martial arts and pro wrestling. And obviously, your expertise kind of lies not only in the pro wrestling world, but with a lot of guys who have amateur wrestling background or guys who are known as, legit shooters. Is there anybody out there, Jerry, that perhaps we don't know or the listeners out there don't know who was a legit tough guy, but maybe didn't have the notoriety as being a shooter, somebody that would surprise us?
Well, I mean, we all have our different descriptions of legitimate tough guys. There are some guys out there, Phil Brooks, CM Punk. He's going to surprise a lot of people. I mean, this guy is trained in different varieties of mixed martial arts since he was, preteen, and even during these years, I mean, he would go into a city and he'd find an MMA gym, and he would go and train. And I don't know, you and I had some conversations about some of the comments that was made by a certain friend of both of ours, that upset me a little bit. And now I see where he's actually coaching Phil in grappling, which I'm glad that they're doing, because I think they can really learn from each other. But he's going to shock a lot of people, when he finally gets into that octagon.
I think you might have been talking about the very shy young man that lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's wrestled in Missouri.
That he doesn't really like to tell people what he thinks about things.
No, he doesn't, and and that's what I mean. I think he and Phil can really learn from each other, and if that guy is the bright guy that I think he is, and we both know he is, he will learn from him because he's such a sponge when it comes to knowledge. But I don't mind people speaking their mind, but you don't have to insult the world, to make your point. And I wish him nothing but luck, and I hope he makes the big leagues soon. The big leagues, you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, sure, the UFC.
The one where you make the money. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I am an incredibly huge mark for the Iron Sheik. There's just something about this guy that I think is hilarious. And a lot of people, maybe they don't see the humor. I mean, I've even had people say, like, what's so funny about it? You can't even understand him. I was like, that's part of it. So, Jerry, what is your best Iron Sheik story?
He called me Coach. I love Cos. I've known him since he got into the business. Vern Gagne. They hired him up in Minnesota to be a Greco coach. The great Alan Rice, who brought him over, and he's so legit, legit tough guy that a lot of people just see the humor, but this guy was a freak. I mean, an animal, and I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, a silver medalist in Olympics, and was the Sheik's the ruler over in the country, personal bodyguard. And Alan Rice met him, and the U.S. was in need of a Greco coach, and Alan paid his way over here and got him all settled out in Minnesota, and he coached at Minnesota club wrestling team up there in Greco, and then he hooked him up with Vern Gagne because he just had this outgoing personality, just a funny guy to be around, and so Vern broke him in and sent him down to Florida, because down here in this territory we did a wrestling style, kind of a shoot work type wrestling style down here. So Vern knew he'd fit in good and that he'd really like him, and he did. And then of course he went to New York and became a superstar up there. But there's so many stories about road trips with the Sheik. They're all common. That I'd be repetitive probably if I told one, but he liked the herbs, and so
green medicine, as he calls it.
Yeah. And he had to have it, and some autograph session. He reached in the wallet, and his stash fall out or something like that. But he's a hilarious guy, and he's everything that lets you read. I don't think he could exaggerate a story about the Iron Sheik. I really don't. I think what you hear is true, and but he's also a lovable guy that, if he's your friend for life. The story that I always like to tell, he rubbed Andre the Giant the wrong way one night. And you don't want to rub that guy the wrong way, believe me.
He hates Andre the Giant.
Pardon?
He hates Andre. He still cuts promos on him.
Yeah, I know. He still to this day. He does on a lot of people, and but Andre, we were sitting in the dressing room. We had separate dressing rooms, and back in the old days, and Andre said, "Brisco, come out and watch this match. You're gonna like it tonight." I didn't know who he was. I looked at the sheet and I saw the lineup. That's the Iron Sheik. Man, this will be interesting, So I went out, and he went. Andre surprising had with his speed when he was young. This guy, as big as he was move, and of course, as powerful as a semi truck. And so he went behind Sheik, and he suplexed Sheik from one corner to another and ran over. By the time Sheik got up, he was behind Sheik again and suplexed him back to the other side. Sheik rolled out of the ring and just, the heck with this, and got counted out. And that wasn't even the finish of the match, So the next week we had a two-man battle, a two-ring battle royal. Andre went right straight to Sheik as soon as the bell rang, picked him up, body pressed him over his head, and in the middle of ring one, tossed him over the rope into the middle of ring two, just in a blink of an eye. And holy cow, you won't mess that big boy, but she just rubbed him the wrong way for some reason, and Andre made him pay the price every night. She was scared to death of him. I think that's the only guy she was ever afraid of.
Well, it seems like Andre kind of ran afoul of a couple of guys who were legit tough guys. Not only the Sheik there, but also he had some documented problems with Bad News Allen, who's also known as Bad News Brown, to somebody who was a legit tough guy. I mean, I run into.
Well, he was a medalist in judo, wasn't he? Judo, one of those. Yeah.
76 Olympics in Montreal. He was I think he won silver representing Canada, something like that.
Well, Andre really had to respect you, and Bad News just rubbed him the wrong way. Andre was easy to rub the wrong way. I always made fun. I had a funny story on Andre. I had a little 2-seater Mercedes-Benz, a little 450 SL. He loved to ride that car, and his head, of course, would stick, I had to put the top down, his head would stick up, and he had that big fro at the time. So one day I picked him up at the Atlanta airport, and we were going to Griffin, Georgia, like a 45-minute trip from Atlanta airport to the arena. And we're running late. As usual, I had to stop. I always stopped, and the reason he liked to ride with me, because I knew he liked that Matouche wine. So I stopped about 8 bottles of Matouche wine. I had one open, so as soon as he got in the car, I handed him a bottle of Matouche wine, opened up, and he goes it down. So we took off, and I was running late, and I was going probably a little too fast for the law, and all of a sudden I saw the blue light behind me. So I pull over. As I pull over, Andre was really leaning down in the seat because we were going so fast. He's kind of leaning down. But I had to put the top down, so he could get in the damn car. And for some reason, he loved riding in that car. Wanted me to pick him up all the time. So he had scoots down. But when that cop pulled over, Andre, slid himself back up in the seat and straightened himself up. And of course, it was a giant, And as soon as that cop saw that, I saw her looking, as I was getting out of the car. Back in those days, I wanted you to get out of the car. And so I saw that cop unbutton that 357 on his hip there. Holy cow, what have we done? I knew I was speeding. So I walked back, and he said, "Boy, you're kind of going a little faster." And I said, "Yeah, I got old Andre Giant in the car there. We're trying to get over to Griffin over here to make the show tonight." He said, "Well, you're going a little fast." He said, "But I'll tell you what, is that really Andre Giant?" And I said, "Look at him." And he said, "Yeah, it looks like it from here." And he said, he's all right. And I said, "Yeah, he's all right." But he had kept his hand on the gun and walked up to the side of the car. And hello, Mr. Andre, and Andre, hello, boss, And a cop looked at me. He said, "I'll tell you what I'll do." And Andre hated signing autographs and taking pictures. He said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. If you'll get his autograph for me, I'll let you go and just tell you to slow down." I said, "You got to do." So I walked up and I said, "Andre, you got to help me here. I know you don't like to do it, but, back in those days, you didn't have cell phones to take pictures with." I said, "Would you sign this sheet of paper for the cop, and he'll let us go?" And he said, "Sure, boss." So he signed it. I took it toward the cop fainted, and he said, "Okay, just slow down. I'm going to radio guys in front of you, let them know that you're coming, so you better not be speeding or they'll write you up." I said, "Okay." So he let me go, and we took off on into Griffin there. But that cop was scared to death. He had his hand on his revolver the whole time we're sitting there.
Did Andre finish all 7 bottles before you made it to the venue?
Before he made it to the arena. You got that right. And then on the way back, I'd buy two cases of Coors Light. Why he liked light beer after drinking all that wine, I don't know. But he, you don't spit in the wind, you don't turn on Superman's cake, and you always make sure Andre the Giant has a proper amount of beer, and you don't try to go beer for beer with Andre the Giant. I found that out too many times.
I've heard the same thing about Brian, actually, with his Coors Light. You don't want to go beer for beer with him either.
Is that right? Well, I didn't get to find that out, And you mentioned the name earlier that would be kind of silly not to talk about it. Is a good buddy, Chell. If I would have met Chell, there's certain guys that just have it, and Chell Sean is one of them. He's outspoken, he's very intelligent, he's got all the ingredients, and I would have loved to found him when he was coming out of Oregon, so made him a WWE superstar, because he grew up like Kevin did in the Pacific Northwest and was a huge fan of Don Horn's promotion of wrestling. He's a historian. He probably can tell you more stories than I can about professional wrestling. The guy's just phenomenal. I love him to death. I enjoy being around him. He puts up with my BS with him because I'm not shy. You know, I got a little too many beers one night in Vegas, and when he was out there training, I called him never needing a book to come out and get him a drink with me. He wouldn't do it, you know. And the next morning I said, I talked to Chael. How? What'd I call him? You guys scared me. I was scared to death. About a week he'd track me down and choke me out. But he did.
Yeah, you know, Jerry, he doesn't drink. I mean, he'll inject. He'll inject everything else in himself, but no drinking.
You don't put anything bad in his body, what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. But he draws a line.
At least he admits it now. At least he'll admit it now. You know.
Yeah.
And and I think through your prompting, me and him had a conversation this last time, and how to handle the situation. And I think finally, between me and Jim Ross, who now has become good friends with him, through my introduction with Chael and then JR, and JR is a very bright man, and JR, this is how you gotta go and tell the truth, man. The world loves somebody who'll tell the truth. Don't deny nothing. So Bill, in his own unique way, went in and did the dirty deed that he had to do. Did the right thing, I should say.
Yeah, it's the only thing that he could have done, and he's at ESPN now. He has a deal for every pay-per-view. They bring him on SportsCenter, and they do a little spot with him. It's 13 times a year. It's all the way in Connecticut. I don't know if Fox's will bring him back. I hope they do, because I know he loved that job. But and
we also know there's whatever he chooses to do, he'll find a way to get it done. And I think the world's forgiving if you're honest, and he was honest for that occasion, and I have respect. I went. He picked me up one time in Portland, took me down to Corvallis to the Pac-12 tournament, and I spent the weekend, just BSing back and forth with him and trading old war stories, and I just really enjoyed being around the guy, and he's so entertaining, and he's another guy, he'd reach that age, and I said, Joe, you just, you're past that point there, and you see guys like Chael, and I used to kid Ben all the time. Now he's making big guys. Ben, if you were 50 pounds heavier, a little bit taller, and I told the same thing to Johnny Hendrickson. I told him to say this, and man, I wish you were a little bit bigger. I could make you guys so damn much money, but now they're making the money that they deserve to make. But when you in collegiate wrestling, when you get a response, where it's boo or a yay, it's a response, and it's something that our sport needs. And have two gigantic personalities like Johnny Henderson and Ben Askren come along at the same time. Wrestling was just huge, and you go into these arenas and see these guys and hear the response, and holy cow, you only hear that in pro sports, you didn't hear it in wrestling, but when those two guys hit the mat, it was going to be one or the other, and that was exciting for the sport and great for the sport, I thought.
Absolutely. I mean, the Hendricks Askren, I hope it happens in MMA. I mean, I know they wrestled as high school kids, and then they were supposed to wrestle again at the All-Star Classic, and I think Ben was willing to come down to 65.
Yep.
And somehow it just didn't happen.
It didn't happen, yeah, and there's several conspiracy theories on that too, but of course I'm a cowboy, so I'm on my cowboy side. Right on Cowboys.
No, hey Tom, I don't know, have you heard, I don't know the legitimacy of this story, because anything with Hulk Hogan, you really have to check 2-3 times and then check it through another 10 people.
Yeah.
But the story that I heard, Jerry, was you were at a nightclub, I guess sometime in the 70s.
Imagine that.
And you saw this 6'7", 300-pound guy jacked out of his mind, bodybuilder, named Terry Bollea. And you said, hey, would you like to go to the Snake Pit and train with Hiro Matsuda? Is that kind of what happened, or is that just folklore?
That's about as close to the truth as anybody will admit. We went in, my brother and I, my brother was there too, we went into this club right outside the University of South Florida, and we happened to know the lady serving drinks who was Terry's next door neighbor. And of course, wrestling was big in Tampa. There weren't any pro franchises down here, so we were the action here in Tampa. If you want to be entertained, that's where you went, was to United the Army. So, well, I noticed Terry sitting out in the audience a couple of times. He never, had a really great seat because he didn't have a lot of money, and so he's always sat towards the back, and him. See it, big guy, but he'd just sit there, no reaction or anything like that, and I didn't think anything about it. But one night we went into this establishment, and up on the stage was this huge guy playing the bass guitar, and I asked the young lady, I said, "Do you know who that is?" "Yeah, it's Terry Bollea." I said, "Man, I'd like to talk to him about being a wrestler." She said, "Oh, he'd love to talk to you." I said, "Well, the next break, have him come down." So next break, he came down. We went to back and sat there and talked. We come out and down in the morning, and Hiro Matsuda will be down there, and we'll put you in the ring with. You guys better keep your kid. I get to go in the ring with Hiro Matsuda. Sure. So next morning, 9 o'clock, he was there. And Matsuda went in. Matsuda was one of these Punisher guys that he liked to hurt people. So you test people, see if they want to really do it, or if they, I've seen cops, I've seen bodybuilders, I've seen everything run out of that sportatorium there here in Tampa. After Hiro gets a hold of them, but he got a hold of Terry, a big muscular guy, and grabbed an ankle lock on him, and the story is he broke his leg, but he didn't break his leg. He just severely sprained his ankle, and we figured, and Terry limped out of there, and we figured, well, that's the end of him. And the next morning, he was there again with his ankle taped up, as tight, probably too tight, and his shoes laced up, and he said, "I'm ready to go again." And we took a look at it. It was so black and bruised up and blue. We said, "Terry, take a week and come back next week, and we'll train." He was back the next week, and back the next day, and pretty soon, the rest is history. But that's the story of Hulk Hogan. And we had him here in Tampa and trying to book him, and we didn't have a lot of large guys down here, so I called, and he wasn't getting many bookings and making a living. So, and his mom didn't want him in the business at all. So I would call his house. He was living at home. Tell his mom you're booked. Tell Terry he's booked in Fort Myers. Just say Fort Myers tonight. Be there at 6:30. And he's got a match. Well, she wouldn't tell him because she didn't want him to be in the business. So after a while, I figured out. Terry, I don't mind going. I asked Terry, I've called your house 3 times. Well, my mom don't want him in the business, and she's not telling me who's calling. So it ended up, I started calling his next door neighbor, that young lady, and then telling her, "Would you make sure Terry knows he's booked in Vero Beach tomorrow night? We need him there at 6:30. So she started delivering the messages to him, and so, but he wasn't getting any bookings. So I knew in the back of my mind the place for him was New York, but he wasn't ready to go. So I said, "Well, Jerry Lawler's a good friend of mine. No relation, right, Tom?"
No, unfortunately not.
Well, anyway, Jerry's a good friend of mine, so I called Jerry and said, "Jerry, I got this huge guy for you." So he said, "Send him up." So he went up there, and I told Terry, I said, when you think you're ready, and you'll know when you think you're ready, come back, and we'll call Ben Sr., and we'll get your book in New York. So about less than a year later, he came knocking on my door out here in Odessa, and I went in, and it was Terry and Ed Leslie, British Barber Beefcake, which I think. So he came in, and I pulled table in the floor room, and we played a couple of games. He finally got around, we drank a few beers, and said, I'm ready to go to New York. And so I said, okay. So picked up the phone, called Vince in there. I said, Vince, you got this giant here for you. He's so big you'll be impressed with him, because that was a big man place, and so he said, well, tell me a little bit. So I told him a little bit about him. I said, when can he start? And I said, when do you want him? He said, have him up here in a couple of weeks. So 2 weeks went by, and we sent him to New York. The story is Jack bought him a pair of wrestling boots, and I gave him a $100 bill because he had no money or boots. So my brother Jack bought him the boots, and I gave him a $100 bill, which, by the way, he did pay me back. And so we sent him up there, and he was wrestling in the garden. And so back then, everybody wore, big Ric Flair robes, which cost a fortune, and he didn't have money. So he was wearing a T-shirt in the ring. So Fitz called his tailor, had his personal tailor come, made Terry a jacket, a robe. Yeah, the first robe that Terry ever had, and wore to the ring, and then Vince fell in love with him. He had a little run there, and back in those days, he kind of rotated talent a lot, and so his next stop was Minnesota. Went out there for Vern and made a bundle out there, and that's when Vince Jr. took over, and Vince always liked Terry, and so Vince Jr. called Terry and made a deal with him to leave Vern and come back to the WWE in New York, and they told him what the plans were to build the empire that he built, and of course Terry and Vince got along great together, and they worked together and ended up building a dynasty.
Yep. Jerry, just as a little thing before we go, and I know I can speak for Brian, I assume I can in this case, in just saying that it's been a pleasure to have you on, especially with all the past knowledge that you have of pro wrestling, and especially how that can help translate into not only mixed martial arts today currently, but the sport of amateur wrestling and helping that get off the ground. I just want to say personally thank you for keeping the sport of amateur wrestling in your mind and helping promote that throughout professional wrestling and just throughout the sports world in general. But before you go, I'd like to talk about one thing that we haven't touched on, and that is what I perceive to be the biggest double cross in pro wrestling history, and that was Pat Patterson stealing the WWF hardcore.
That egg-sucking dog, Pat Patterson. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was Nashville, Tennessee.
I saw it on YouTube last night.
And I beat a weight crash over Holly this time. First time I admit, he might have had a little too much to drink and passed out, and I bribed the APA, Ron Simmons and John Layfield, and they left the room with a little guy that was a singer with Kid Rock, and went out to an adult establishment and had some adult beverages. So the hardcore title was defended 24/7. So I would step outside the door, and I saw a referee come in here, and I put my finger on Crash Holly, beat him 1, 2, 3, and the referee, being a clumsy guy that he was, stumbled and woke Crash up, and Crash chased me into the ring and back, come out, and that was saved. So we went around, and we ended up with John Shapp one night in New York, and Shapp had come down to found out he was hired by Crash to try to help find me, and we just happened to stumble into him in another adult establishment there, but chased around New York a little bit, so I had to defend the title in Nashville, and so I beat Crash that night, came back, and we were celebrating with champagne. I thought Pat was my friend. I thought Pat was my buddy. He was my what had my back all the time. All he was looking at was to get that thing. So we had 2 bottles of champagne. I turned up mine and was drinking it down. All of a sudden, he hit me over the head, knocked me out. You're right. It was probably the biggest conspiracy, the biggest screw job ever in the history of wrestling. And as a referee there, I went down. I was blinded and knocked out by a champagne bottle. And Pat stole the title from me. And then we ended up in some goofy match in Boston, Massachusetts, that I wasn't too fond of, but Pat didn't mind that wrestling drag, but I didn't like it too well. My kids didn't like it too well. And Crash came out and interfered that and won the title back, and that was the end of Pat and I's feud. It was quite an experience. It was a fun time.
Was that Mike Chioda that double-crossed you on that?
I think it was Chioda. Yeah, and he's a double crosser anyway. You got to watch your back when you're around him.
As a viewer, I just have to say that watching back during that time, especially with I was a huge fan of the 24/7 rules with the hardcore title, but really you exposed yourself to a new group of people and a new audience there with your work as for lack of better words, Vince McMahon's stooge. And, it's really awesome to see somebody adapt to the pro wrestling world and be somebody that was such a legitimate, tough wrestler in their day and be able to go out there and work some comedy. It's really, it's refreshing in a way.
Well, thank you, Tom. And, it was a blast. And I kid Patterson about it all the time, and he gets a little upset. I said, Pat, you and I worked all of our careers to build a legitimate type career. And Pat was considered one of the greatest performer workers of all time, from the San Francisco days with Ray Stevens to Minneapolis days up in the AWA. And, of course, the world's first Intercontinental Champion that he won in Rio de Janeiro. I forgot who the opponent was, but anyway, he won the title down there. So we worked all of our careers to have a legitimate career and be respected as top performers of our time and of the business in general, the industry in general. I said, now we're going to be tied together as two bumbling, stumbling old stooges for Vince McMahon. And, but the great thing about it, it did introduce us to an entirely different group of fans and a different generation of fans. So it helped just perpetuate, I think, our style. And you're right, Tom. We were completely different, and it was the attitude entertainment era, and we both, accepted it and ran with the ball. As give me the ball and I'll run with it, And I think we gained so much respect from that generation's talent that it was unbelievable. That night, you might recall too, that when we wrestled Mean Street Posse and I think it was Orlando and defeated them, and we came out with Hulk Hogan music. Remember that? And we did the posing and all that stuff. It generated the highest rating of Raw of all time, like an 8.6, which is phenomenal. It's like 12, 13 million people. The highest rated segment of Raw of all time. Now, I think Rock, and it took Rock and Mick Foley to break it with the birthday party. This is your live party that Mick Foley threw the Rock one night. That was the only day there. But as far as an action segment, we still hold the highest rating of all time, which I don't think will ever be broken. But it was a great time during my career. I really enjoyed it. It was coming home. Both of my boys were young and in school at the time, and coming home and trying to explain to them what Dad had done the night before, was always a challenge, and I was a volunteer high school wrestling coach, and my kids on my team just loved it, because they were coached by, Vince McMahon Stooge, and we'd walk into other gymnasiums, and of course, they just, the response that I would get would just just knock you off the wall. And the other team kids, you know, they'd all come over and shake hands with me. It was great, but I loved it. And it was great. I was just thankful for the opportunity. And when you know it's yourself, Tom, when you're handed that ball and you get an opportunity, if you're halfway smart at all, you take advantage of it. And I was handed the ball and we ran with it and we scored every time.
Wow. So you had to tell your kids, hey, you know, we did this match with Patterson, but you know your dad's a badass, right? You know, did you have
well,
to
I think they knew I was a badass because I was and plus, when I was their volunteer coach, so when I get in the wrestling ring, they knew what I was talking about, you know.
Sure.
Hey, they got a kick out of it, and you know, my business partner, they hated when I wore that Brisco Brothers Body Shop T-shirt. I loved it because I sold the hell out of those shirts. But, you know, it had a telephone number of the shop on it. It was a legit telephone number, so everybody would be calling that number the next day, either chewing us out or laughing at us, or you know, wanting to, hey, is he there? You know, the Yankee spring training facility, Steinbrenner Field, is just down the street from the shop. And so in the springtime, we'd have people driving down to the shop, just parking in front and getting out of their car, taking pictures. Some of them bold enough to come inside, ask for, you know, a notepad or a pen or something like that. And we always obliged them. We'd always had novelty like ink shop ink pens and notepads and stuff like that. We would sign and give to them and let them take their pictures outside in front of the sign and everything. It was I like to say, probably the most famous auto body shop in the world, you know, for a period of years.
Yeah, I know the Brisco Body Shop better than the ones that I know in my own hometown here. Yeah. But hey, Jerry, I mean, thanks for being so generous with your time. I mean, you need to write a book or something, or get your own podcast. All this knowledge that you built up over the years of being in this business, and your unique insights into amateur wrestling, mixed martial arts, and then of course professional wrestling, is really like unmatched. I mean, there's not too many guys that would have your level of experience in all of those.
Well, Tom and Brian, I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me, and I've been approached several times, but I'm just not ready to sit down and put it all on paper yet. But there will be one coming. I've had several nice offers, you know, to do it, but it's a commitment that I want to do, and I want to do it right, and I want to have it entertaining, and I'm such a huge fan, and like I said when we started this, Tom, I've been a fan of yours, and I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate it. I appreciate Action Sports. I appreciate the UFC, the MMA. I have a high respect for all of you guys, and I watch every form of wrestling. I don't care if Lucha Libre or whatever organization it is. I watch it. I'm always scouting. I try to attend. I kid the guys at Flow Wrestling and my good friend Scott Casper at Takedown Radio. That I probably attend more events or amateur wrestling events than anybody in the country, and I'll put my schedule up against anybody in the country. Brian, as you know, you and I follow each other on Twitter at FG Brisco, you know, and Front Row Brian, and I'm always, you know, tweeting I'm here, and the hospitality. I was at the multinational duels in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I've lived in Florida for so long. I'm a Florida boy, but I was up there as 10 below zero. I told my wife, I saw my thermometer double here in Fort Wayne. It went from -6 to +6, you know, from the time I got into the rain and got out. My thermometer on my car doubled. It's freezing. But the National Wrestling Coaches Association, I want to give props to them. I want to give props to the NCAA wrestling, and every high school, every youth wrestling league wrestling coach, every middle school wrestling coach and wrestler, every high school wrestling coach and wrestler, every collegiate, no matter what division you are, chase that dream. Don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something, because if you put your mind to it, you can do it.
Yeah, that's a great message. So I just wanted to reiterate, Brisco Body Shop in Tampa, Google that. And to buy, there's a great book. It's just entitled Brisco. It's by Crowbar Press. So if you just put that into Google.
William Murdoch here, Jack told it personally to William Murdoch, a good dear friend of ours out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Exactly, yeah. So it's by Crowbar Press, and just Google that. I bought the book myself, which is why I sounded somewhat intelligent about the history in some of this interview. But excellent book. So you can get that about the legendary Jack Brisco, and then also, of course, Brisco Body Shop is in Tampa, and NXT.
You got it, GeraldBrisco.com too, by the way, get those shirts and, booking information. If I could, I'd like to give a Mick Foley shameless plug to something that I'm involved in. As you retire, you start volunteering, but sometimes you volunteer so much that that's all you're doing is volunteering. But I'm involved in Bill Murdoch, William Murdoch, that wrote Jack's book. He's president of Evelyn Charities, one of the largest 501c organizations in the entire United States. And we have this headlock on hunger, and we like to say wrestlers go hungry by choice because we got to make weight. But there's millions of kids in every neighborhood, every city, no matter where you live, that go hungry, and it's not by choice. It's because they don't have the means and the funds to get food. And we're in cooperation with the Southern Athletic Conference at the Southern Conference wrestling tournament coming up in Asheville, North Carolina. Soon you can go to Headlock on Hunger on Twitter and on Facebook and make a donation, and 100% of the funds go directly to the organization. We are working with a food bank, and at the Southern Conference Wrestling Tournament, you bring a can of food, you get a discount on your ticket, and plus you're helping needy children around the United States get something to eat, put in their bodies, and help their nutrition and help their schoolwork, because if you're hungry, you can't think, and we don't want to see any kid go hungry in this country. So please help. Go to those two social media sites I told you about, and please, anybody listening to this, please get out and help Headlock on Hunger. There's going to be a Hoops on Hunger starting by Brad Doherty, and that's taken our idea and taking it to basketball, and also I think NASCAR is going to pick it up. So it's something I hope every organization, every sport picks up and helps these kids nationwide get some good food in their belly.
Now, that's Brad Doherty of the University of North Carolina fame and Cleveland Cavaliers?
Sure is, yes.
That's him. Okay. Yeah, now he's a NASCAR analyst. Yeah.
Now, you got it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason NASCAR probably get involved, because Brad wants to get involved, and he started the Hoops on Hunger himself, and Bill and I started the Headlock on Hunger for the wrestling end of it. We hope this year, this is a pilot program with the Southern Conference, and Leroy Smith, the director of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, is heavily involved in it, as is Jim Ross, who's our national chairman. So it's going to grow, and we hope in the next few years it's in every wrestling conference in every school in the United States. So wish us luck and help us out,
Yeah, that sounds like a great initiative. And just want to, Tom, if you have any last thoughts before Jerry jumps off here. He's been so generous with his time, and we really appreciate it.
Yes. No, it's been a pleasure of mine listening to you guys go over these stories, and as always, it's been great to hear Jerry and his perspective on things. And just want to say I'm a big fan, but not of yours, Brian, but of Jerry.
Yeah, I don't have any fans.
Oh, who is? I mean, I know his Twitter fans aren't.
I think they follow me, even though they don't like me. They just want to know what I say. You know, it's not like they like me. They follow people like Tom and you because they actually like you.
Well, one of these days I'll get that free brew, that adult beverage from you somewhere down the line.
Absolutely. I'm good for it. I'm known to...
I think you are. Well, the Worlds are out in Vegas this summer, or September, I think it is. And the first time we've hosted the World Tournament. So
I was going to ask you.
I'll plan on attending that.
I was going to ask you, Jerry, are you going to go to the World Cup or the U.S. Open? I think the World Cup is April 12th, and the Open is like May 6th. And I'm going to be at both.
I'll probably be at the Open. I'm not sure about the Cup. I think there's still the amateur wrestling tournaments or national tournaments going on during that time. That's out in where, L.A.?
Yeah, it's in L.A. I went last year. It was at the Forum.
Yeah, and those people do a wonderful job out there. I'm so glad. I just wish wrestling had some universities in California and in Florida where kids could continue their careers. You know, maybe one day. You know, there's so much money out to USC and UCLA. You know that they'll see fit to bring the program back there. So because California's got a tremendous high school wrestling program, a lot of great talent coming from out there.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because I mean, what universities sponsor wrestling in California? I mean, Stanford for sure, but I mean it's impossible to get into Stanford, right? Cal State Fullerton killed their program. Yeah. Is Northridge back?
Well, they still got St. Louis Obispo and Bakersfield, and our Bakersfield out there, but there's a couple out there that are full members of wrestling only in the Pac-12, that attend the Pac-12 tournament. So still, there's some great talent out there. So come on, California, come on, Florida, come on, states. That's the reason. I'm not a big Penn fan, and I wasn't an Oregon fan because all the money Phil Knight probably spends more money on one hand. I know we're one that could wrap this up, but I got to get my venting out here. Oregon probably spends more money. Phil Knight probably spends more money on one set of uniforms than the entire wrestling program would take an entire year. So let loose some of that money, Phil Knight. I'm not going to buy any more Nikes or plug Nikes anymore. Let go of some of that money and get that wrestling program back. Oregon's a great state for wrestling. Look at the greats that come out of Oregon. Some of the greatest ever. And as you know, Brian, I'm always plugging a young man from Southern Oregon, Brock Dutchess, who is one outstanding wrestler. He's another one. I wish you were. I told him last week at the Monthly National Duels, and I wish you were a little bigger because of your personality and your talent. You could make it.
He's a really good kid. This Daryl Christian is a former Greco national champion. I was a teammate of Chaels at the University of Oregon, and I become friends with him. And he's kind of like a mentor to Brock, and he just says that he's just a complete badass. And
he is. He's intimidating when he walks on the mat. And amateur wrestling, when you find somebody that's intimidating walking on the mat, you got the match won already. And he hammers these guys. I love. I mainly go to watch the big guys, but when he goes on the mat, I always go over and find the mat he's on. And I walked up, I introduced myself to him this time, and he said, I really appreciate the plugs you give me on Twitter. And he said, I appreciate it. And I had a great little conversation with him, and he mentioned your name. He said, that Brian guy's a character, and I said, yeah, he's a big fan of yours. So you're getting known out there too. So keep it up, guys. I really enjoyed this, and keep up the great work. And FG Brisco on Twitter, and let's knock them out, and let's go Cowboys. Win that 35. Drive for 35.
All right.
So.
Hey,
good
Jerry.
luck all the amateur wrestlers out there and all the aspiring MMA and professional wrestling young men. You know where to find me. If you can't find me, you can find Front Row Brian on Twitter at Front Row Brian, and tell him you're interested, and he'll get the message to me. You and I have worked a couple deals through direct messaging for our buddy Chael, and we can work some deals for some of these kids looking for a career, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, more than happy to help. Thanks again, Jerry, for your time, and thanks again for my co-host, Filthy Tom Lawlor. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
All right, take care.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Remember this, when you're the greatest fighter in the world today, they got a name for you. They don't call you a great fighter, they call you Chael Son and beat me, if you can.
And after tonight, none of you in this ring will ever again!
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down. Woo!
I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
And I have my cold beer. You have your cold beer? If not, you are fucking jabroni. Wash it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
I am Riley Martin, a phenomena that has never transpired before, will not again. This is your last goddamn chance to do something for humanity.
All right, welcome to the Filthy FRB Show. We're joined by a WWE Hall of Famer, former light junior heavyweight champion of the world, NWA. You might know him in the late 90s on Monday Night Raw with Pat Patterson. His name is Jerry Brisco. What's going on, Jerry?
Well, I just returned back from Orlando over the NXT Performance Center where we had a great tryout this weekend with about a dozen Brazilians and Australians. It's very interesting. Great athletes.
Yeah, Jerry, I'm also joined by Filthy Tom Lawlor, who's is currently signed with the UFC and has some experience as a professional wrestler too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tom's. He don't know that, but I've been a fan of his for a while. So I'm honored to be on both of you guys' show. Of course, I follow you on Twitter, Brian, and I always enjoy the controversy. As the business I'm in, we're always in some type of controversy. So it's good to have a fellow guy that can relate to what I'm able to talk to.
Yeah, and I often wonder, like, it rubs people the wrong way. I guess because I'm always looking for an angle.
Honesty, Brian, will rub people the wrong way.
What do you think, Tom? You think that'll?
I think you're doing the right thing. I think both you guys are doing the right thing, especially if you're looking for controversy. Because hey, Brian, it's only going to put more dollars in your pocket. So.
Exactly, Tom.
Well, that was that book, right? Controversy Creates Cash by Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, come down our street, and like I said, we didn't have a fancy neighborhood, but there's a big red Cadillac parked outside on the street in front of our house. And I'm going, who the hell's Cadillac? So I was excited. The coach let me out of the car, and I went running in. All of a sudden, as I went running in the door, I opened the door. There stood Eddie Crowder, the offensive coordinator for Bud Wilson, and Bud Wilson, the legend himself, right there. And I dropped my trophy. Bud reached down, picked it up. Hey, son, what you got here? Congratulations. I told him more on the trophy, batted me on the head. I went on about my business, but he congratulated me. But Jack was such a good football player that that Eddie Crowder couldn't close the deal, so he had to bring the head guy in, Bud Wilkinson in. So Bud made a house call to my brother. That's when Jack went ahead, who's going to turn down Bud when he's in your house, especially my mom. My mom was in love with the guy, so Jack signed a letter of intent. Myron Roderick, our wrestling coach at Oklahoma State, was such a smart guy. He'd gotten to know Jack and the family and knew that Jack was a huge professional wrestling fan. Danny Hodge, was the local legend there. Danny grew up about 15 miles from where I lived. So the promoter in Oklahoma, Leroy McGurk, was an old cowboy, two-time national champion at Oklahoma A&M at the time. So he called Leroy McGurk and asked Leroy if he would give Jack a call and tell Jack that when he got out of college there would be a spot with I guess it was Oklahoma Championship Wrestling. So Leroy made the call over to Jack. Actually sent Haystack Calhoun and another guy over to tell Jack, hey Jack, you go to Oklahoma State and there's a good job waiting for you when you get out of school. So Jack dropped the letter of intent for football and went ahead and signed for Oklahoma State. So that's how Jack and basically myself both ended up at Oklahoma State University. Was through Roderick's homework doing it that he knew that Jack liked wrestling, and the key to it was getting Jack a job afterward. But then he was upset with Leroy because after Jack's junior year and he won the national championship, Jack decided it was time to move on and move pro and start making a living for his family. So that's what happened there.
Hey, Tom, you were going to hop in there?
No, but I could. I mean,
yeah, well, I was just
there's about a million things that
Haystacks Calhoun. Amazing.
Happened there. Yeah.
Haystacks was a remarkable person. I got to know him very well, and when Haystacks was one of those characters that didn't go into, we call them territories, didn't go into a territory and stay. He was like Andre the Giant was during his day. He'd go in, for like 10 days and get back in his car and travel around and go to another territory for 10 days. But Haystack always drove those big internationals. You know how big those vehicles were last week, and expressed it. But most of our good wrestlers, best wrestlers, are sitting in a locker room with a red shirt on them. So look, Cowboys will return. We won 34 national championships, more than Iowa and Iowa State combined. So we felt like we're ahead of the curve. Of course, Coach John Smith, the greatest all-time decorated American wrestler, both collegiately and internationally, does a great job recruiting nationwide for outstanding wrestlers.
Sure. Now, Oklahoma State, they signed the top high school wrestler in the country last year, Chance Marsteller, and I haven't really gotten a chance to watch too much this year. Do they still have the red shirt on him, or is?
Well, that's what I mean. Most of the best wrestlers are sitting in the dressing room with the red shirt on them. So, just waiting their time. And they got some good, big boys too. I have a guy from my hometown from Blackwell, Oklahoma, that should develop. They're waiting for Marston to get out, which I think Marston was beat by Telford this week, and Marston's ranked number 4 or 5. But I think by the time the Nationals roll around in St. Louis, that he'll be seated up in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I just want to about Oklahoma State. I know 1964, your brother Jack came in second in the Nationals, and then 1965, he won the national championship, and I don't think he was taken down one time the entire season. And he was a junior in 65. Did he come back to school in 66, or did he go pro?
He went pro. He was one of the first guys to start that trend. he had gotten married in college, married as high school sweetheart, and they'd had a couple of kids, and my mom, God bless her soul, she had 6 kids, and father deserted us, typical story when we were young, and so she worked, but Jack and I had scholarship, and I had an older brother who was a basketball player that was All-American at Murray State back in the 50s, and put us all through college, and so, but yeah, he left, turned pro, Leroy McGurk. And let me tell you, we got time to tell the story here, and Jack could actually tell the story about how he ended up at Oklahoma State, because he had signed a letter of intent with the great Bud Wilkinson, the football coach, the living legend at University of Oklahoma, to be a Sooner. But and let me tell you a story. Our football season, of course, runs over into wrestling season. So Jack's senior year, they went to the state finals. Blackwell did, and lost in the state finals. And so I was wrestling middle school at the time, and we'd gone over to a little town outside of Ponca City, and I won the tournament over there. And I was real proud of myself. First really major tournament I'd won, and I think I was in 7th grade. And so I don't know if you ever read it, but I did. Eric gave me a copy of it, and I really enjoyed it. Eric is a brilliant man. He really is. He's misunderstood in a lot of ways, rightfully so, but he definitely knew how to create some controversy, and he did it. And they definitely made a lot of cash for not only himself, but for a lot of talent. That was a great era for talent, because there was competition, and so when there's competition, talent is the winner on it. And talent and the fans are the winner.
Yeah, I mean, especially during that, the mid to late 90s, I mean, there were so many guys in the business making just incredible amounts of money. And you've forgotten more about the business than I have. But, I mean, was that the first time when guaranteed contracts...
Wait a minute, you're saying I've forgotten more about the business than you've forgotten about? So that's saying I must not know very much to begin with.
Did I messed up that... I've already started drinking Coors Light, Jerry. I messed up.
Oh, right. I wish I could join you. And by the way, you do want me a beer. Tom, is he like that? Promise you a beer? Like I was out to Vegas for the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Open. He said, I'll meet up with you and have a beer. And he conveniently waits until it's way too late or the tournament's going on. By the way, I'm at the bar if you want your beer. Is he like that, Tom?
Yeah.
He got deep pockets and short arms.
We had a good night that night, Jerry. You were too busy hanging out with the Godfather, Papa Shango.
Yeah, exactly. And, no offense, but I'd rather be over there with a whole train going on. And
Now, Tom, have you ever ran into the Godfather in Vegas? Because I know you're out there right now.
No, but I would stay far, far away from him. Just based on his days as the Supreme Fighting Machine. I wouldn't want to go anywhere near him unless he's dressed up and dressed up like the Godfather. He's got a bunch of women there. But when I see a scary guy with tattoos, I normally stay away.
I tell you what, Tom, I had a conversation with Charles one time. Everybody knows Charles White is his name, and he asked, everybody's afraid of him because he's so big. I had all the ink all over him, and he said, why don't you get him over with the heel? And I said, Charles, you're a good-looking guy. I mean, he really is. You look in his eyes; he got those real kind eyes. It's just the way he is. He's really a good person. Nothing like the characters of Papa Shango's, the badasses, and the roles that he played. He's a real good down-to-earth guy. One of my favorite all-time people in the business. One of my friends.
So, Jerry, I mean, for some of the people that might not know about WWE, some of the MMA fans, what is your official position with WWE at this point?
Basically, Brian, I'm a collegiate talent scout, and I cover wrestling as my primary. Of course, I'm an Oklahoma State proud Oklahoma State Cowboy. A little disappointed the way Iowa kicked their butts at home. They were the SUVs, back in the 50s and 60s that everybody wanted. So, but Haystacks was so big, seat never fixed him. So we had Brisco Brothers Body Shop, and they'd bought a new one. They brought it over to the body shop. We had one of our body men. We had to rebolt the seats. We undid them and drilled new holes and refitted the seats so they were custom fit for Haystack, so he could get that big girth of his in the car and drive comfortably. So he was quite a character.
And for the people that don't know, I don't know that much about Haystacks Calhoun, but I've seen some pictures. He had to have been about 600 pounds. I mean,
they were advertised around 650, and he was every bit of it.
Now, Jerry,
he could move like a cat. Yes, sir, Tom.
I'm a big fan. While we're on the topic of some of the old school wrestlers, I'm a big fan myself of late 70s. And 1980s Japanese wrestling. And I've come across a lot of your matches from All Japan against, not only Japanese stars there, but the Funks and some of the other teams that were there. Can you talk a little bit about your experience over there in All Japan? Because we kind of see right now there's a little bit of a resurgence in the Japanese scene as far as interest, especially here on American soil. And I was just wondering if we get a viewpoint from back in, the 1970s when things were really going strong.
Well, it was quite an experience for me, and then Japan was a place that I dreamed of going. Of course, a couple of my teammates, Yojo Yutaki, who was a two-time Olympic champion, three-time NCAA champion, twice outstanding wrestler. Back in our days, you could only wrestle for 3 years. You weren't eligible as a freshman. And Tadaki Hada, another one of my great friends, and so I learned a little bit about their culture from them. So I had the opportunity to go over, so I went over, and the first tour, I just posted a picture on Twitter of an old poster I happened to be going through some stuff for starting to get my tax in order to take to my CPA, and I was digging through some files. I found this poster. I think it was from 1969. It was me, Funk, and the Destroyer, and had Tenru and Baba pictures on there also representing the Japanese. So I just happened to take a picture of them posted on Twitter just last week, I believe it was. But and those Japanese, if they heard that you could go a little bit, and Tom, you know what I mean by that, they would challenge you. And I'm fresh out of school, 1968, so I was fresh out of Oklahoma State, so I was ready to challenge. They wanted to throw me, so they had some guys. They tested pretty good over there in the beginning. I don't know if they still do that now, but back in those days, they tested. They wanted to see what you were carrying, so they found out. And I wasn't tested for too many nights, after like first couple of nights, I passed my test, I guess, to say. But it was an experience, and then I mentioned the Funk brothers. A lot of people know that Funk-Brisco rivalry was one of the most fierce, well-known rivalries of that